So how about we talk about the top 5 Smite jungles? I don't think a lot of these are going to surprise you guys. Jungle has been pretty straightforward for a while now. But regardless, for those that maybe don't play a lot of ranked, for those that maybe don't play a lot of jungle, this will be a great place for you to start playing some very strong characters in the jungle. Hopefully bring you some more elo. So we're going to be starting off here with the number 5 jungler, and it is going to be what we just saw in our previous game, actually, but with an actually competent build, and that is going to be Mercury. Mercury has, I would say, maybe been the sneakiest of the top 5 junglers, in that it's not like you're seeing Mercury bans and stuff, but his performance numbers are very high in Smite right now. A lot of it, I think, comes down to the fact that not a lot of hunters are building crit every game, which means that Mercury is free to build crit, and then the tanks have to decide whether or not they're going to build spectral armor against one Mercury, and they almost never do. Because of that, Mercury is critting for as high as 1k right now, which is a lot of damage. You ulti down the lane, they spin around for a second and a half. That second and a half is plenty of time in the late game to get in 2 punches and kill somebody. Plenty of time to get in 2 crits and killing a squishy, which means the fight is now 5v4. Mercury actually just got nerfed, except for the fact that they nerfed his special delivery damage, which is maybe the least important thing to ever be nerfed on any character ever. So, not going anywhere on the Mercury. That was a crazy decision of all the things to nerf. What a weird choice. Number 4. This god has been banned in your games. He's been picked in your games. Sometimes you'll see him solo. Sometimes you'll see him in the jungle. I am sure that you have had to mess around with him quite a few times in your career, and that is going to be Thor. While Thor isn't quite a top 3 jungler right now, he is extremely good and consistent. Semi-global ult. Hammer is still one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game. He's got 4 damaging abilities, which means everything procs on items like Crusher and Heartseeker, which makes that a great option for him in the builds. Long stun time on the 2, long stun time on the ultimate. You combine those together. He's a great Hydra's procer. He's pretty good at zoning from objectives because he's got the wall on top of the ultimate for zoning. And he's got passive power. Even though they got nerfed recently, he's still got passive power. Still one of the best junglers in the entire game. And honestly, probably always will be as long as his kit remains like this. Hammer. Movement ability that does a ton of damage. A blocked off wall that does damage and stuns. A knock up immune ability that does AoE damage on a low cooldown. And then a semi-global ult that's a stun that also gives you basically oboe temporarily. It's nearly impossible for that kit to just not be good. Like, even if the damage numbers are lower, just the straight kit itself is so strong. Moving onward to number 3. So we're getting up to the top 3 junglers right now. These are really going to be your premium junglers that are carrying matches. I'm talking hard carrying. It is very difficult to carry a game right now by yourself. This season has been designed very much so with team fights and team play at its core, which has its pros and cons. One of the cons being that you can perform very, very, very well, and if the rest of your team is not performing very good, you're probably still going to lose. But these 3 characters can overcome that barrier. Not a lot of gods can this season because it is very strictly designed for this to not be the case. But number 3 is going to be Robin. Robin is not quite going to make it into my top 2. I think a lot of people would have expected him to be number 1. One of the big reasons that I can't put him at number 1 is that from a statistical standpoint, Raven is, and I quote, average, which is kind of a ridiculous statement. He starts to perform really well again once you get back up to like Diamond Plus, but like the average player finds Raven to be basically an average god, which brings him down a little bit in terms of just his wide appeal. But Raven just got a little bit of changes, which makes him shifted towards the jungle compared to solo lane. His passive got nerfed back down again to its original state, but then he got the damage back on his abilities, so he's hitting a little bit harder and just a little bit less tanky. The thing about Raven is that he's just super tanky to begin with because he's got 2 immunity frames, with his ultimate being able to get him out of abilities and his overhead kick also being an immunity frame. Having 2 different immunity frames to get out of people's abilities on top of the shield means that even when you're building full damage, you are surprisingly tanky. And of course, you build a Bloodforge on him, and then you get those Bloodforge shields on top of your passive shields, and Raven can still build up a shield that's nearly like 40% of his total HP or something, which is a lot of bonus HP to have to burn through when he's hitting you for a lot of damage on each one of his abilities. Raven also one of the highest banned characters in the game because not only is he a very good generic jungler, he's also a strict counter pick to so many different gods in the game because of those immunity frames. So you see him banned almost all the time. In fact, you probably see him banned significantly more than the next god on our top 5 list. And the reason why this god is number 2 is because I would argue that this god is actually the best at potentially solo carrying a game, with the only other argument being who was going to be our number 1 god, and our number 2 is going to be Thanatos. Thanatos is a little different. For those that haven't played him in a while, his ultra early game is actually not as strong as it used to, particularly his first 5 minutes of gameplay. While hitting the scythe is still crazy strong, because he doesn't have a hard CC, those first 5 minutes of the game, the early ganks on duo that are tending to happen right now, those can actually be hard to pull off with Thanatos. Like a Thor has a better opportunity getting those early kills because you just wall somebody off and then they're stuck right and they're stunned. Thanatos, on the other hand, can struggle throughout this first 5 minutes, but once you get his ultimate online, things start to get online very, very quickly, and especially once you get your first kill or 2, that'll open up the floodgates for you on Thana. Really, the thing about Thana that's putting in so much work is his straight-up passive. For those that don't know, not only does Thanatos get HP back when he kills a god, he also gets a flat cooldown reduction, which means that you get a kill, you get basically a heal, plus the Bloodforge proc, so you're getting basically a 50% HP heal from all that combined. Plus you get your Scythe back up, which also heals you, which means you get 1 kill, which leads into another kill, which leads into another kill, which leads into another kill. One of the strongest pentakill gods in the game because of that, and lets him stick around and carry the team. One of the few gods in Smite that has the absolute potential to 1v5 right now. Highly recommend playing more Thana if you haven't yet. And also just remember that Thanatos, because this stun is now 1.5 seconds on his ultimate, he is legitimately an extremely strong late game god. I would argue that Thanatos is a much better late game god than he is early game god right now, which might be the first time in 10 years of Smite that has been true for him. He's always been an early game god, but congrats. He's now mid game and late game-atos. I don't make the rules. I just live here. Finally, our number 1 god. While this god is not one of my personal favorites, they're not somebody that I play a lot because I don't find them quite as fun as the other characters that we have listed, it would be remiss of me not to put them at the number 1 spot, because this god holds a very special statistic, which is not only is this god the number 1 win rate god at Diamond Plus, they are Also the #1 win rate god throughout all ranks combined, which is extremely rare in Smite for a god to be that good at all levels of gameplay, and that is going to be Kali. Now, Kali and Thanatos, when you think about it, super similar. Both of them are now later game gods. It used to be Thanatos was the early snowball god. Kali was the late game snowball god. Both of them very into that mid game, late game snowball type focus. Their passives are going to give them those heals. You combine that heal potentially with a Blood Forge, and it just means when you get 1 kill, you get 2 kills, you get 3 kills, you get to stick around in the fight. And as long as you can get that first kill going in the fight, you are going to be totally fine. I also think that not only was she already this good, but certain buffs like to Crusher, plus 5% attack speed on Crusher, minus 100 gold on that. All of a sudden, Kali might really want to start getting like Crushers and stuff. Combine the bleed damage with the bleed damage, gives her a little bit more power early, that kind of stuff. She also has built-in physical power on Incense, and I do think that with the reduction in total power that we have seen in Smite, her 3 giving out 50 total power for 8 seconds, which is essentially an item and a half bonus power for a physical character. That's a huge part of the reason why she's so good. And not being able to die for 4.5 seconds will simply always be strong. There's a reason why Kali is not just performing at the highest levels of gameplay, but also lowest levels of gameplay. She's got a lot of skill flexing potential, but also at a baseline, kill character, basically full heal, and just not be able to die means that your positioning can be a little bit loosey-goosey. You don't have to be quite as strict on that kind of stuff because you've got more get out of jail free cards, and that is why she is the #1 on the top 5 list. Bringing our top 5 list to #1 Kali, #2 Thana, #3 Raven, #4 Thor, and #5 Mercury as your top 5 performing ranked junglers. So I highly recommend adding those to your repertoire. If you have not yet, guys, your life will be a lot easier. But thank you guys for coming out to the stream today. Thank you guys so much for your support. We're going to throw in a rerun for you so you can continue to get your special points. Keep hanging out with the Twitchiest community. And, of course, avoid that stinky Smite Game channel. So have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you guys all bright and early tomorrow morning. And, as always, folks, have a twitchin' day, y'all. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a twitchin' day, y'all.